In the late 1800s, America was building itself into something enormous. Skyscrapers were rising. Railroads were stretching across prairies. Steel empires were being hammered into existence, rivet by rivet, shift by shift. But the people doing the building, the ones breathing the soot and working the machines, often went home to kitchens that were nearly bare. A single day's wage could vanish into rent and a loaf of bread before the sun even set. So how did millions of factory workers survive when food itself felt like a luxury? Here's where things get personal, because they didn't just survive. They invented. They stretched. They made meals from bones and water and stale bread, dishes that had no names in any cookbook, that never appeared in any restaurant, but kept entire cities alive through 12-hour shifts and coal-black air. Today, we are counting down 25 forgotten poor man dinners that factory workers actually ate during the Industrial Revolution. Thy meals that built America while America was still hungry, and stay until the end, because the truth hidden inside these forgotten dishes will change the way you see modern food, survival, and even the comfort food sitting on your table right now. Number 25, cornmeal mush. This was the foundation, the bedrock of working-class survival in mill towns across the country. It was nothing more than cornmeal stirred slowly into boiling water with a pinch of salt until it thickened into something dense enough to hold a spoon upright. Workers ate it hot before dawn shifts. What was left cooled overnight, sliced, and fried in the morning. Children ate it with a drizzle of molasses. Adults took it plain. The real genius was that one pot of mush could feed a family for 2 days on almost nothing. We lost something when boxed cereals replaced it. Not just a recipe, but an entire philosophy of using every last thing you had. Number 24, molasses bread. Dense, dark, and baked slowly. In cast iron ovens, this loaf replaced expensive sugar with blackstrap molasses, the cheap, bitter byproduct of sugar refining that most wealthy households discarded. Factory wives baked it overnight so the family could eat before the pre-dawn whistle blew. The smell of it, warm, dark, faintly sweet, filled cramped tenement apartments and drifted into stairwells shared by dozens of families. Your great-grandmother knew this without ever reading a single nutrition label. Molasses carried iron and energy that plain white flour never could. Number 23, salt pork and beans. This was the Sunday pot. Dried beans and heavily salted pork fat, slow cooked together for hours on a coal stove until the whole thing became something rich and filling and deeply sustaining. Families cooked it in bulk once a week, eating from it for days. And get this, the salt wasn't just seasoning. Translation: salt was the refrigerator before refrigerators existed, preserving the pork long enough to last through a full working week without spoiling. Modern baked beans are its direct and somewhat softened descendant. Number 22, lard sandwiches. Exactly what they sound like. Bread spread thick with salted pork fat, sometimes topped with a raw onion slice or a sliver of pickle. Workers wrapped them in old newspaper and carried them into steel mills, eating them standing up during the few minutes allowed for a midday break. But here is where it gets truly poignant. These weren't eaten with shame. They were eaten with hunger, which is its own kind of honesty that our era has mostly forgotten. Number 21, onion stew. When meat scraps weren't available, onions were. They were cheap, available year-round, and when boiled long enough in water with a bone or two, they released a broth that was thin but warming. Workers in crowded boarding houses relied on it during harsh winters, steam rising from tin bowls while the wind pressed against the walls. It disappeared when richer soups became affordable. Today, it survives as French onion soup, but without any memory of the poverty that originally created it. Number 20, potato soup, sometimes called water soup. Potatoes boiled in salted water with the faintest trace of fat. Children called it white soup because it had almost no color and almost no richness. But it was hot, it filled the stomach, and potatoes were among the cheapest calories a family could buy. Translation: water soup wasn't a recipe, it was a calculation. How do I keep my children working tomorrow on what I have left today? Here is where things get personal. These meals were never about taste, they were about endurance. Factory workers weren't exploring rustic cuisine or eating simply by choice. They were surviving 12-hour shifts, dangerous machinery, and wages that barely covered rent. Every single ingredient had one purpose: energy. What we now call historical food was once a daily act of survival mathematics. Nothing was wasted. Every bone, every scrap, every grain had value in a way that most of us alive today have genuinely never experienced. If you had to work 12 hours in a steel mill tomorrow, what would you eat? Drop your answer in the comments. And if these forgotten stories are hitting something real for you, please subscribe. There are so many more of them to tell. Number 19. Hasty pudding. Cornmeal cooked in milk or water until it went smooth and thick. Made in minutes before a shift because there was no other time. Workers sweetened it with whatever was nearest. A spoonful of molasses, a pinch of brown sugar scraped from the bottom of a jar. It disappeared when boxed cereals promised speed and convenience without requiring a stove. But there was something deeply human about standing in a cold kitchen before sunrise, stirring a warm pot with your own hands before walking into the dark. Number 18. Bread and drippings. Stale bread soaked in the leftover fat and juices from whatever meat had been cooked the night before, or the night before that. Children called it sopping bread and ate it without complaint, because hunger has a way of making everything taste acceptable. The real genius was in the refusal to waste anything. A pan that looked empty to most eyes still had a meal hiding in it. We lost something when we started throwing away anything that didn't look like food anymore. Number 17. Scrapple. This one was born in Pennsylvania Dutch immigrant communities and spread through factory towns because it turned butcher waste, pork scraps, trimmings, offcuts, into a sliceable, friable breakfast food by binding everything together with cornmeal. Served hot on cold mornings before the walk to the mill. And get this, the families who ate it weren't embarrassed by it. They were resourceful. There is a difference, and your great-grandfather understood it instinctively. Number 16. Chicory coffee. Real coffee was expensive, and for many factory workers, it was simply out of reach. So they roasted chicory root, ground it, and brewed it dark and bitter as a substitute that could stretch a small amount of real coffee much further, or replace it entirely. Immigrant workers brought the tradition from Europe. It kept night shift workers awake in textile mills where the machinery never stopped. It survives today in New Orleans coffee culture, though most people drinking it have no idea they are tasting the echoes of industrial poverty. Something important emerges when you sit with these meals long enough. Nothing here was accidental. Salt wasn't just seasoning, it was preservation. Bread wasn't comfort, it was survival. Fat wasn't indulgence, it was fuel for bodies breaking themselves down under the weight of industrial labor every single day. These dishes carry a hidden history of America that the history books rarely tell. Not the history of the factories themselves, but the people inside them. The immigrants, the children working alongside, adults, the families measuring time not by hours but by paydays. But here's where it gets truly insightful. Many of the comfort foods you love today were born directly from that hardship. They just lost their origins somewhere along the way. If this is teaching you something new about the real America behind the textbooks, hit like and tell us, which of these meals surprised you the most? Continuing through the list. Bean porridge shared from a single pot in boarding houses. Pickled herring and dry bread carried in from German and Scandinavian immigrant communities. Cabbage stew that smelled like survival in crowded tenement hallways. Corn dodgers. Fried cornmeal patties wrapped in cloth for factory lunch breaks. Ancestors of the hush puppy. Liver and onions eaten on payday because organ meat was the one affordable protein. Turnip stew in freezing mill towns when nothing else would grow or store. Corn pone baked in the ashes of a wood stove with nothing but cornmeal, water, and fire. Suet pudding, dense with beef fat, shared in boarding houses as something close to dessert. Potato cakes, yesterday's mashed potatoes fried into patties, which became this morning's breakfast. Barley soup, thin but warm, passed around immigrant housing. Fried saltfish cakes eaten with bare hands during short factory breaks. Milk toast, bread soaked in warm milk, given to sick children and exhausted workers who couldn't manage anything more solid. And finally, vinegar soup. Water, vinegar, salt, and sometimes a piece of old bread. Translation: vinegar soup meant the pantry was completely empty. It meant tomorrow was uncertain. It meant you were still here anyway. And number 1, boarding house stew. Every leftover from every meal during the week thrown into a single pot and boiled together. No two pots ever tasted the same. The flavor changed with whatever was left, whoever had cooked that week, whatever scraps had survived. It was communal and imperfect, and entirely human. The forgotten meals of the Industrial Revolution are more than recipes. They are survival stories written in cornmeal and bones and boiling water, in the hands of people who had almost nothing and made it into enough. They remind us that the abundance we move through every single day was built on the backs of generations who calculated every meal like it might be the last one they could afford. These workers had no convenience stores, no safety nets, no delivery apps, but they had ingenuity, and they had each other, and from that came the foundation of American food culture itself, the comfort foods, the slow-cooked traditions, the instinct to waste nothing that still surfaces in the best home kitchens today. We lose something when we forget where our food came from, not just the recipes, but the stories inside them, the resilience, the quiet dignity of feeding your family on almost nothing and calling it dinner without apology. Your grandmother remembered these echoes, even if she never named them. If you want more forgotten stories from America's past, the ones that never made it into the history books, hit subscribe and join us here on Lost American Memories. Because history isn't just about what we built, it's about what we endured